this dunya, because we're talking about the matter of the end of time. But if you just want to think and just makes a little comparison, think about the worst of the earthquakes that happen in this world and see the effect it has. Look at the destruction that it leaves behind. Mankind cannot even handle it, right? And here we're talking about the earthquake or the ground shaking, the zilzal of the day of judgment. It says, فَكَانَتْ هَبَاءً مُنْبَثًّا, which means that the mountain will be like particles, like dust, right, floating in the air. And he said, وَكُنْتُمْ أَزْوَاجًا ثَلَاثًا. Now it's talking about the big issue in this surah. The people will be divided into three groups on that day. We have, as you remember, Ashab al-Yamin, right? Ashab al-Shimal, and As-Sabiqun, As-Sabiqun. It also refers to them here. At this point, it says Ashab al-Maymana, right? And then also says Ashab al-Mash'ama. So you have these three groups being mentioned here. And also one point it mentions here is that this As-Sabiqun As-Sabiqun, which is the foremost group of the people, it says Thullatun min al-awwalin wa qalilun min al-akhirin, which means that majority of this group, that's As-Sabiqun As-Sabiqun, people that will be muqarrabuna inda Allah, that those people, majority are from the past generations, right? And of course, like some ulama say that past generations means early generations of Muslims, as well as some of those that followed the early prophets. So the later generations, which is our own generation, we are qalil from this group of people, right? We are very few from this group. That's also teaches us that we should work hard, right? We should pray. We should make dua to Allah, because as a Muslim, you always pray to Allah for the best. So even when someone dies from Muslims, we pray dua, make dua to Allah for al-firdaus, right? For the person, right? So this is what the Muslim does. But when you're alive, you should also work towards it, not just to pray for firdaus, but you need to also work towards it. And working towards it is by doing what? The things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do, the wajibat. And then staying away from what? The forbidden affairs, the muharramat. But for you to be from the sabiqun as-sabiqun, you also have to do what? The mustahabbat. The things that if you don't do them, you will not be punished by Allah. But you want to compete, right? You want to be from the best, from the chosen few, right? So then you need to do the other things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, recommends, that is being recommended in the Sharia of Islam, and stay away from the things that are being disliked from Sharia of Islam. So we said that, and we said also that now we talked about the benefits, the things in Jannah. It says, ala sururin mawduna, muttaki'ina alayha mutaqabilin. And then we described this yesterday. But the point here is also to mention that some of these things are being mentioned, right, in Jannah, and that you can find maybe names similar to what we have in this dunya. The point is that it doesn't mean that the realities are the same. Just like the reality of our creation, as we will see also is going to mention. Even the reality of the creation, how we're going to be, it's not like the way we are in this dunya. That's not how create us in the way that He wants in this dunya, that suits and befits that place that we are going to be. Just like people that will also be in the fire also be created in the way that suits and benefits where they are going to be. Right? So those things here, the names have been mentioned in the Quran and things like that to bring the meaning close to us. However, their realities is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that knows it. And then we mentioned the very famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he was talking about Jannah. And he said that in it is what the eyes has never seen. فِيهَا مَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ. And also what the ears have never heard. And likewise. So he mentions all that. And it says also there's hurun ain that we'll have in Jannah. That's the females, the wives, the pure wives Allah SWT has created for the believers in Jannah. And he describes them, said, they're like pearls that have been covered, right, and protected from any pollution or corruption from sun or dust and things like that. And very clean and pure. And he said, Jaza'am bima kanu ya'malun. And all this is a reward for that which they used to do, which the righteous people used to do. La yasma'una fiha lagwan wala tathima. Right? They will not hear in Jannah any false speech. Al-lagu means false speech, speech that is of no benefits. And sometimes some of this speech, not necessarily that is haram speech, but there's no benefit in it, right? They will not hear any of this in Jannah. He says, ila qilan salaman salama, except what? Salam. or something that is safe from what. Now, all this is for Asabikun, Ashabu Shimal, Ma Ashabu Shimal is Ata'ajub. It's like saying that how amazing is the situation of these people. How beautiful is their case. How all the things about Ashab al-Yamin. في سدر مخدود وطلح ممدود وظل ممدود وماء مسكوب وفاكهة كثيرة لا مقطوعة ولا ممنوعة, and all this we describe Jannah, we made them a car, like they were never married, right? Virgins. Ben Atroba, and he says was the spouses and Al-Yamin on the right. Now, okay, say now in this case, you can see now the segregation, the difference. Here for this people, they are going to be a huge group from the past. Hotness is hot wind based on for punishment, based on punishment to be given, as well as Hamim, boiling water, boiling liquid. Some say poison, as well as this shade. Of course, the shade, when you say shade, especially heat from the sun years ago, when there's no, I remember some years ago when I want to go to the masjid, I have to find the corners just to hide to go to the masjid because it was so hot. So when you tell an Arab, he says dil, you say shade, it conveys a particular rahmah, a shade of mercy, a shade of dhillin min yahmum, a shade conveying the level of punishment. He said, La baridin wala karim. There's no coolness in it at all. And there's no honor in it. There's no glory in it. Right? He said, La baridin wala karim, innahum kanu qabla dhalika mutrafin. What was their sin? In the past, these people, they were mutrafin. Atarafu, and unfortunately, many of us engage in this today, is to engage in entertainment. But not that entertainment is bad, but engage in entertainment while disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Engage in entertainment in the form that you exceed the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this. Because you have money, because you have wealth, because you have everything, whereas the people around you are suffering. But you prefer to spend that money in atarafu. And ulama mentioned in Tafsir as well that because of this entertainment, you entertain yourself in this dunya, what's going to happen? You forget about the hereafter. You forget that there's a hereafter. You've created your own hereafter in this dunya for yourself. And that's what Prophet said in the hadith. He said, what? He said, dunya, sijnu, mu'min, jannatu, kafir. This world is like the prison for the believer. And it's like the paradise for the disbeliever. He said, وَكَانُوا يُسِرُّونَ عَلَى الْحِنْثِ الْعَظِيمِ. One of their greatest sins is that they persist. Al-Israr is to persist Al-Hinth al-Azim. Many of the scholars, if not all of the say that this is what shirk, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it. What is zulm in the Quran said? Inna shirka la zulmun azim. The shirk is the worst of sins. So this is they engage in shirk. So here you see this ayah warns us of what engaging in any form of shirk and to be doing tahqiq of tawhid and tells us to establish and firmly establish tawhid. And this meaning is still going to come again in some other aspects later. He said, our aba'un al-awwalun. Now they also ask these people out of disbelief and denial of Yawm al-Qiyamah. He said, what about our forefathers? Bring forth our forefathers in kuntum sadiqin. Go and bring our forefathers if you have been truthful. Are those our forefathers also going to be resurrected? And this is out of denial. Qul inna al-awwalin. Say to them, surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to resurrect al-awwalin wal-akhirin, the previous generations and all the later generations. All of them, la majmu'un ila miqati yawmin ma'lum. All of them will be gathered on a day that is ma'lum in them. Who knows it? Don't forget we mentioned the hadith of Prophet Sallallahu where it says that mata sa'a. He said, when is the time? Say, you don't know, I don't know. It's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that knows the time. But this time is known by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everybody will begin. And also, of course, this surah doesn't really mention the Ashratu Sa'a because Jibril asked the Prophet Sallallahu said, Ma alamatuha or amaratuha. What are its signs? Then Prophet Sallallahu told Jibril about some of the signs of the hour. And ulama have gathered many ahadith together to talk about the signs of the hour. And they divide into three: the major signs, the ones in the middle, and the minor signs, or major signs and minor signs. And they said some of them have happened, but some of them have not happened. Isa alayhi salam is coming back to the dunya. We have Gog and Magog, Yajuj and Majuj. We have also what's the one that is Kafir? Dajjal, you see Dajjal, and all this, right? So they are coming, but some of things have already happened. And we can see from the things that Prophet mentioned in the hadith, he said what? And tara al-rufat al-urat al-ala. That class that's already happened. He said that you see that the Hufat, the people that are poor, the people in the desert, they are poor, tattered, they don't have shoes to wear, they don't have clothes that covers all their body. They are rearers of what? Of sheep. What will they end up doing? They start competing on who has the tallest building. Class, this one has happened, right? You see that it's haram to have tall buildings. No, it's not that it's haram. It could be out of need. You go to something like Hong Kong or Singapore, they don't have space. So they have to build vertically. Or something like Mecca, for instance. You need to build vertically to create more space for people. But al-israf, and that's why one of our Sheikh Abdul Karim he said, this hadith, yes, gives this tall building as an example. And most of it is wastage, actually. There's research on this now. Most of what they're building is just wastage. But it's not just that. What if you don't build tall building and you still waste? People that build castles, all these waste castles that they build all over the place and they just waste money. So he said here, the general meaning, besides using this particular example, general meaning is wastage and competing in wastage, which of course, clearly you can see around you. So he says here, where did I stop? سنكم إنكم معلوم. Then says ثم إنكم أيها الضالون مكذبون. Now he's referring to them, these people that disbelieve. ثم إنكم أيها الضالون مكذبون لآكلون من شجر من زقوم, referring to أصحاب الشمال, that they are ضالون, they are misguided from the right path. مكذبون, they deny what? They deny the Yawm al-Qiyamah, which is al-Waqi'ah. He says, and what's some of the punishment for them? They will eat from what? Shajarin in Zakum, which is says disliked, very abhorred tree. They will eat from that, and they will fill in their bellies with it. Something that and they have no choice, but this is the only fights to camels, right? Like a disease that camels have. When they're extremely thirsty, and they keep drinking, but they don't get satisfied. They just keep, right? So this shows by him that they keep drinking without being satisfied. They keep drinking without being satisfied, like this. So now this is what, this is their nuzul. Nuzul, let me say that here. Nuzuluhum, he said, nuzul awwalu ma ya'kulu dayf. Is the first thing that you give your guests. Some of course say nuzul manzil could mean also manzil. This is going to be their status, their place on the day of judgment. Why some say nuzul could mean this is the first thing you give your guest and all. This is the first of their punishments. So what do you think is going to come? What can you imagine is going to come after this? So he said, نحن خلقناكم فلولا تصورون. He said, we created you. Because because this is the subject, right? These are the subject we're discussing about. So why is it that you will not believe? We are the ones that created you, right? Why is it that you will not now believe in what we tell you? They're not going to give examples. Said, look at that which you are, the tumnun from imna, right? Which is the sperm. Allah says, some say tumnun, some say tamnun. Tamnun is tumnun when it comes with through sexual intercourse. Tamnun without it. So, but it refers to this anyway. When what is being used to impregnate the woman, that's sperm. Then look at it. Look at, and Allah describes this in the Quran, how we are being created from this, right? So it's أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تُمْنُونَ أَأَنْتُمْ تَخْلُقُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Is it you that created it, or is Allah that created it? Now, of course, also when you study in science and all these things, you see that the sperm, it comes with so many, what they call them? Is this sperm? All those spermatozoa, right? I can't remember. All those things, right, that come. Only one survives, right?
Yeah.
Out of millions. And then after that, what's the next stage? Right? Becomes like alaka, right? And then mudga, right? And then becomes the full creation with ears and mouth and eyes and all these things. Who created all these things? Tabarakallahu ahsanu khaliqin. Allah SWT is the one that created all these things, not you. You didn't create it. So he's telling them to remember, trying to make them reflect from the beginning of their creation. From that to what you are. And he says, so we destined, or we ordained, we decreed al-maut for you. He says, قَدَّرْنَا بَيْنَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ. He said, وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَسْبُوقِينَ. He said, we ordained for you death, that you will die. And also here, when I say that, it's talking about this death. It could happen to anybody, right? Even from inside, some people in the tafsir, they say, even from that, from a stozoa we just mentioned now. Some people, some of the other sperms already died. But you survived, and you came. Some people, they die, they die in the infant, right? What they call it, the fetus, die in the womb. Yeah, through a miscarriage. And some come out, they succeed, they come out. Some people die on the first day. They born the baby, halas. Some survive for a few days, few hours maybe. Some survive for days, months, years. Finally, everybody dies. Everyone's soul shall taste of what? Taste of death. Finally, everybody dies. But who is the one that decrees all these things? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah is asking them, telling them. It says, between all of you, both old and young, whether you live long or you live short. Right? And he said, we are not incapable of that. It's not that Allah's matter is not capable. Allah is capable of doing all that. Some ulama say that this is tied to the next verse. what he says here, he says, وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَسْبُوقٍ عَلَىٰ أَن نُبَدِّلَ أَمْثَالَكُمْ وَنُنْشِئَكُمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So whether I use it for the first one or use for the first one, like I said yesterday, that these are corroboratory tafsirs, right? It doesn't conflict each other. All of them are possible explanations. So he said, وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَسْبُوقٍ, which means we are not incapable. We are not mu'ajizin. Al-ajz means not to have capability. So we're not incapable, right? That will change your creation. وَنُنْشِئَكُمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, and make you in a way that you cannot even understand, or you don't know. And that's in Yawm al-Qiyamah. We're going to bring you back to life in a way that you cannot understand, in a way that you cannot comprehend, because we are capable of doing that. So he says, وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمُ النَّشْأَةَ الْأُولَى فَلَوْلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. He said, now you know, or you already know, of how you were created the first time. Now, the first time could be referring to the creation in the womb from the sperm, or the first time could be the creation of Adam, alayhi salam. Right? So he says, وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمُ النَّشْأَةَ الْأُولَى. So you know about this first creation. فَلَوْلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. So why is it that you deny? Why is it that you will not reflect, you will not remember? And he says this فَلَوْلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ is saying sihatul qiyas. Qiyas means to make analogy. So he says here that it's making this analogy is correct in the sense that if Allah SWT created you the first time, then is it not possible for him to create you again? For you to think about this? It says here, it says, now he moves to another example. So class, it has left the example of the creation of man. Now he moves to another example. It says, which is what you plant. He said, Antum tazra'unahu am nahnu zari'un. Are you the ones that make it to germinate and grow, or is this from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And that's why some ulama tafsir say that you should separate between al-harf, which is to plant, and al-zara, which is to cultivate and to grow. And Ibn Juzay here in this tafsir mentioned the hadith of Prophet sallallahu that when this ayah was revealed, Prophet sallallahu says, لا يقولن أحدكم زرعت ولكن يقول حرثت. So none of you should say that zara'tu, use this word zara'tu, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنَحْنُ زَارِعُونَ. So we are the ones that what? نَحْنُ زَارِعُونَ. We are the ones that what made it to grow and cultivate. So do not say that we are the ones that do not use this word zara'tu. Rather say harosum, I planted. And is devotion to a tawhid. You just planted something, right? Right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ultimately the one that makes it to grow. Be very precise. So we see that this conveying this kind of thing, he discourages companions from using it. And that's why in the case where he says that MashaAllah, it is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills alone, or what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, and then what somebody else wills. So you see, this just using this word. Then out of what? We need to grow and cultivate. And if you look at this also, the science of this, of how seeds grow, how they germinate, different types of seeds. Some seeds are hard as rock. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to split and grow, it will go. Who is one that is doing that? On the ground. And when you even step on it, you don't even hear the sound. It's gone. has become dried. If we wish, we'll make it, we destroy it and make it in this way. And then you feel sad. You feel lost. You feel and walau nashala tayyib says inna lamugramun. Then they will say, these people, they say inna lamugramun. They say we have lost kasara al-ghurm. Say we are lost, or they'll regret, they'll be denied. They'll say that they have been punished, they'll say that they have been denied of good. He said, now he gives another example. After that, so we see first example was about the creation of man. Second example was about that which you plant. Now I want to give another example about the water that you drink. So he says, what? أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا الْمَاءَ الَّذِي تَشْرَبُونَ. What about the water that you drink? Some of them out there say tashrabun here, just use as an example. Water is used for so many other things. So here is the broader meaning is that look at the water that you have. And you say water, water is life. Right? Water is everything. He said, أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا الَّذِي تَشْرَبُونَ. Now look at the water that you drink. أَأَنْتُمْ أَنْزَلْتُمُوهُ مِنَ الْمُزْنِ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْمُنْزِلُونَ. Who is one that sends that water? Al-Muzni here, let me say, refers to the clouds. But clouds that are already heavy with water. Right? Clouds that have water and want to send the water down. So who is one that sends that water down from the sky, from those clouds? Is it you or is it Allah? Allah says in the Quran, of course, said what? وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً طَهُورًا. And so also وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً بِقَدَرٍ. Right? فَأَسْكَنَّاهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. So we reviewed water from the sky, pure water. Okay. And also we said we reviewed water from the sky, right? By our command, by our qadar. And also we made it to stay in what? In the land. So which means water in the sky, Ashokani was saying Tafsir that all the water you drew from the land, all these aquifers and wells and ponds, they're all coming from the sky. That's what Shakani said, right? So all this water in this land, Allah SWT says it clearly, is Paskannahu fil ard, right? So it means still goes back to this ayah when it says what? أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ الْمَاءَ الَّذِي تَشْرَبُونَ أَأَنْتُمْ أَنزَلْتُمُوهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ مِنَ الْمُزْنِ أَمْ نَحْنُ مُنزِلُونَ. Is it you that made it to come down from the Muslim, from the clouds? Well, are we the ones that did it? And it says, لَوْ نَشَاءُ جَعْلْنَاهُ أُجَاجًا وَلَوْ لَا تَشْكُرُونَ. He said, if you wish, ujaj here, he said, means that salty water. If you wish, we'll have made this water salty in the sense that you cannot use it, you cannot drink it, right? So Allah SWT made it in a way that is beneficial for us. But if it was His will, it will be in such a way that we cannot use it. And here, some ulama say here that if you reflect here, that there's a deeper meaning here. One meaning is that if there's no water at all, there's drought. This is already painful, right? Drought itself can be a crisis sometimes, can be an emergency, like in Somalia and Sudan, some parts of Sudan. So when there's no water as well, it could be a big issue. What if there's now water, but you cannot use it? That's even worse. You have the water, but you can't use it, right? You can see the water, but you can't use it. It's allowed. So would you not now give thanks to Allah? Will you not now thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, that's the third one, right? Then now he mentions the fourth one, which is fire. Now, what about the fire? Don't you look at the fire that you kindle? The fire that you kindle, you make. Now, of course, he uses an example here. He says, Antum anshatum shajarataha am nahnu munshi'un. Is it you that created, that made the trees, the shajara, that is used to kindle this fire, or are we the ones that made it? Now, of course, shajara could generally also refer to fuel. right? Because in those days, they used to make the fire from two sticks, two dry sticks, or from a stick and some steel, or a stone, two stones like this. So here, so it could be generally mean all other fuels that is used to kindle fire, but refers to it in this context. Why? Because that's what they used there. So, Antum anshatum shajarataha am nahnul munshi'un. Are you the one that created the log, the wood, the shajar that is used to make this fire, or we are the ones that created it? Then it says this fire says nahnu ja'alnaha tadhkiratan wa mata'an lil muqwin. Right? He said we've made it what? Tadhkira, as a reminder. Yeah, reminder of what? Ulama say that reminder of the fire of the hellfire, right? The hellfire. The fire is just a reminder of it. Now, as a reminder, Prophet says in the hadith that all the fire you put in this dunya together is just one part out of 100 parts of the fire of Jahannam. So, which means that whatever you have, put all of them together, multiplied by 99. Now, of course, when you say fire that you have in this dunya, I mean, especially for those that are in science, fires have different degrees. So go to the highest degree and then multiply it by 99. The highest degree that is humanly possible, right? And then when another generation comes, that's after our own generation, and they can even sustain a fire of a much higher degree, so it's just to tell you that he is talking that the fire in Jahannam is adaf or adaf, because here, that is multiples and multiples of that which we are talking about in this world. So he said, Antum anshatu shajarataha. He says, Nahnu ja'alnaha tazkiratan. So it makes it a reminder for us of the fire of the hereafter. He says, Wa mata'an lil muqim. Mata' also something that you can take benefit of, like imta, to seek benefit from something. Some of them say that in the tafsir that in those days the travelers, muqim here they say refers to the travelers, right? So the travelers in the dunya, they used to use this fire as lanterns to see, to move around. And some of them, the Arabs, then they used to have, and even in our own villages as well, different villages will have some light or lamp at their gates. So when a traveler is traveling, they can see that there's a light somewhere far in the dark, and then he can trace it and get there. And he can see probably it's close to the road, or those people can direct him, or he can rest there, right? So it's like a benefit for them, right? For Musafirun. Some ulama say al-muqwin here also is that, of course, even though basically it means Musafirun, those are traveling, all of us are travelers in this world, right? We're all travelers in this world. And that fire that we're using in this world, for whether it's for guidance during traveling, for any other thing that we're using it to do in this world, we're all seeking benefit from it, and which is true. Because the fire we have in this world, as you know, we use it for so many things, and we are all travelers in this world. So it's to our benefit while we are traveling in this world. So it makes a reminder for us as well as a benefit for us while we're in this dunya. It says, so say for all this, after all this, he said what? Give glory and adoration to Allah, right? Al-Azim. The ismi here said this ism is just jins. Jins means it's not saying a particular name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It refers to all the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as at-tasbih also means that what? You negate all forms of imperfection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you glorify Allah above all forms of imperfection, above all forms of false thoughts and false ideas. And say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mighty and majestic. When this ayah was revealed, Prophet ﷺ then told this companions to say this in their some of us don't say this also refers to the revelation of the Quran. Because the revelation of the Quran, and some says what the settings of the stars. He said, وَإِنَّهُ لَقَسَمٌ لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ عَظِيمٌ. So this oath that is making, it's great if what you know, right? Because here he wants to what? wants to discuss about the Quran. So he says, "Fi kitabin." That's innahu. Now it says, "Innahu la Quranun kareem." I'm referring here to what it's talking about. Verily, indeed, it is Al Quran and Kareem. Now, Kareem, how is it Kareem? Imam Shawkani, as you mentioned, that Kareem has glorified. Someone says Kareem. So Kareem, he has raised this Quran far above just being any statement of a poet, as they accuse the Prophet of, or being the speech of someone that is crazy. Or being just stories of old generations. No, the Quran contains guidance or rahmah. So the Quran is guidance for us. So it is glorified above just being tales. It's glorified in the sense that there's guidance in it for all of us. And it's also glorified in the sense that it's praiseworthy because of the guidance that it contains. So Shawkani mentioned that he said Quran and Kareem in this different regard. And said, Fi kitabin maknoon. This Quran is kept in a book that is maknoon, that is sealed, is protected. Now, this is some of them say that Kitabun Maknoon here refers to the Lahul Mahfuz. And some say that it refers to the Kitab that is written with the angels in the Malaika. And some says this Kitab is also the Mus'haf. We're referring to the Mus'haf here, even though this meaning, not many ulama accept this one. Rather, it should refer to the either Lahul Mahfuz or the Kitab that is written with the Malaika. Because of what he mentions here, next one he says, La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun. None touches it except what those that are mutahhar. Al-mutahhar are those that have been purified. Not mutatahhirun. Mutatahhirun are those that purify themselves. At-tahara, make wudu. But here there's some issue when it comes to, the differences among scholars of Islamic jurisprudence regarding touching the Quran, whether in state of purity or in state of impurity. And they use this verse, those that say that someone that doesn't have ablution should not touch the Mus'haf. Some say, no, this refers to the disbelievers. The Muslims are mutahharun. So if someone is a Muslim, can touch the Mus'haf. Someone that is not a Muslim cannot touch the Mus'haf. Of course, non-Muslims can use the English translation of Quran. But the Mus'haf itself, the Quran, should not be taught by someone that is a kafir. It should be someone that's taught by Muslim. This is some explanation. Some of the explanation says mutahharun here refers to malaika, because la yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun is referring to lahul mahfuz or kitabat inda al-malaika, not the mushaf that we have. Right? Some make tafsir. Tafsir means they separate between those that have major impurity and minor impurity. So some will say that those that have major impurity, like junub, janaba, or nifas, wal haid, then these ones, no, they should not touch the Quran. But if it is hadas al-asghar, slight impurity that can be removed by making ablution, then they can touch the Quran. So anyway, the point here is this is a fiqh issue, but this statement created some differences, led to some differences among the scholars. And some of them said, no, mutahharun here refers to malaika, not mutatahhirun or mutatahharun, which are we that we make ablution. It says, Tanzilun min Rabbil Alameen. This Quran is Tanzil, is revelation from the Lord of the worlds. Of course, we already mentioned before that Allah SWT is one that revealed the Quran. Why did he use Rabb al-Alamin? Some Mufassirun say, why is he using Rabb here? He says because Rabbu, the meaning of Rabb, means Al-Khaliq, the one that creates, the one that provides, right? The one that controls the affairs of this world. So now using this Quran and making it offer with this, attaching it to this Rabb al-Alamin, is because Allah SWT, that is the love of all the world, He sent down the Quran as a guidance for us. He did not leave us what Suda, like that, without any guidance, without any prophets. Rather, He sent prophets to us And he revealed the Quran to us to be as a guidance for us. That's why it says, Tanzilu min Rabbil Alameen. So the context here, the meaning here is not just to say that the Quran is a revelation from the Lord of the worlds. Rather, it's a Quran from the revelation of the Lord of the worlds, because the Lord of the worlds is the one that provides guidance to his slaves, which they can find in that Quran. Imam says, Afa bi hadha al-hadith. Now, is it this hadith? This hadith is referring to the Quran, the speech in this Quran. Antum mudhinun, yani mukadhibun. Is it this hadith that you people are now denying, that you disbelieve in? وَتَجْعَلُونَ رِزْقَكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ تُكَذِّبُونَ. And then you make the risk that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to you. That's the rain that is falling. And all other forms of risk that you now deny, you disbelieve. Because to disbelieve in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in all these things that he has mentioned, and he says, and all that, is a form of disbelief in the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that created you and provides for you. Also, he mentions the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu where he says, let me see, and this hadith is also in Kitab al-Tawheed, where he says, some of the believers, they woke up today, says, Inna Allah ta'ala yaqul, asbaha min ibadi mu'min bi kafirun bil kawakib. Said some people woke up today as believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and disbelievers in me, kafirun bil kawakib, disbelievers in the stars. Why? You see, he said, wa kafirun bi mu'minun bil kawakib, or kawkab. And those that disbelieve in Allah, but they put their belief in the stars. Now, these two groups, he said, فَأَمَّا مَنْ قَالَ, as for those that say, مُطِرْنَا بِفَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَرَحْمَتِهِ, that we have been given the rain, we have been sent down the rain and provision by Allah's mercy, by his virtue, then these are people that what? مُؤْمِن بِي كَافِرٌ بِالْكَوْكَبِ. As for those that say, مُطِرْنَا بِنَوْ إِنْ كَذَا وَكَذَا, that we have been given the rains because of this star and that star, then these ones are what? كَافِرٌ بِي مُؤْمِن بِإِيش بِالْكَوْكَبِ. Now, the general meaning here is that when you talk about risk from Allah, risk, whether it's time of the rains, whether it's time of your salary, it's risk from Allah, whether it's times of what you plant and you harvest from your farm, or any other thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses you with, you have to give all the praise and thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By the time you attribute this risk to other than Allah, this is a form of shirk. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one that provides. It's al-khaliq al-razik. It says, al-min khaliqin ghayrullah yarzuqukum min as-sama'i wal-ard. He says, is there any other creator other than Allah that provides for you from the heavens and the earth? So he says here, وَتَجْعَلُونَ رِزْقَكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ تُكَذِّبُونَ. He said, فَلَوْلَا إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْحُلْقُمْ. Now he's not telling them, he said, why don't you see when the soul, the ruh, when it gets to the truth, when he wants to, somebody is about to die. Look at that situation where that person is. فَلَوْلَا إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْحُلْقُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ حِينَئِذٍ تَنْظُرُونَ. But what are you doing at that time? You can only look, you cannot do anything. Why don't you cannot bring the person back? You see the person is almost dying, trying to take the last breath, and you can't do anything about it. He said, وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ. He said, we are closer to him at that point, even though you cannot see. Some ulama say that أَقْرَبُ, he said, when you say وَنَحْنُ, so is it referring to, is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is close to him at that point? Or وَنَحْنُ here is referring to the malaika of Allah, referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, بِعِلْمِهِ, to him physically. But the malaika here are there with him, because the malaika wants to take his soul. So it could be that وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ, is that we are closer to him, our angels are there, my angels are there with him to take the soul. He said, even though you cannot see, he said, وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ, you cannot see them, you cannot see the angels, or you cannot understand some of them. So you cannot understand. It says, فَلَوْلَا إِن كُنْتُمْ غَيْرَ مَدِينِينَ. So if you think that أَنْتُمْ غَيْرُ مُحَاسَبِينَ, that you will not be judged by Allah, that you will not be punished by Allah, if that's what you think, as they are claiming, because they disbelieve in Yawm al-Qiyamah, they disbelieve in al-Waqi'ah. So if that's what you think, تَرْجِعُونَهَا إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. So that life, return it. Return the soul to that person's body, since you think that you have any capability. He says, فَأَمَّا إِن كَانَ مِنَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ. Now wants to conclude the surah And it goes back to mention those three groups that we said earlier. If you remember, we have As-Sabiqun, then we have Ashab al-Yamin and Ashab al-Shimal. So he now says, and also describe those As-Sabiqun. He said, Ulaika al-Muqarrabun, right? So he now goes back here and mentions that and says that what? فَأَمَّا إِنْ كَانَ مِنَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ. Now, if they are from the Muqarrabin, which is what As-Sabiqun, he said, فَرَوْحٌ or Rayhan or Jannat al-Na'im. Said Ar-Rahbu, ulama say it could mean Ar-Rahma, Al-Istiraha. It could be also Al-Istiraha. For them, they will find rest in Jannah. They will find the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah. You'll find all this in Jannah. So it says this is Farohun wa Royhan. Also it says Ar-Royhan, everything that is good, something that you see that is good, something that is pleasing to you. But I might interpret that as well as Royhan. Something that you see and is pleasing to you, al-khayr, that you like, that is pleasing to you. And then the gardens of Jannah, where you have so many na'im. Na'im means what? Al-khayrat, blessings, things that they will enjoy. It says, وَأَمَّا إِنْ كَانَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ الْيَمِينَ. As for the second group in Daraja, which is people that Ashab al-Yamin, he said, فَسَلَامٌ لَكَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ الْيَمِينَ. That salamun laka, peace be up to you from Ashab al-Yamin. Ulama say, salamun laka could mean that Ashab al-Yamin will be giving themselves salim, greetings, salam. It could be that salam here means is giving bashara or bishara to the Prophet sallallahu, glad tidings to the Prophet. That salamun laka, that people Ashab al-Yamin, they will not be punished by Allah. So don't worry. Salamun laka min Ashab al-Yamin. They are safe. Or it could mean that those Ashab al-Yamin, they will be given taslim. You greet them with taslim. Salam, salam alaikum. Like it says, ila qila, salaman, salam. So it now says, salamun laka min ashab al-yamin, fa'amma in kana min al-mukadhibina dhalin. You know when he talks about ashab al-shimal, ma ashab al-shimal, it says, thumma ayyuha al-mukadhibuna dhalun, right? Ayyuha al-dhalun al-mukadhibuna. Thumma innakum ayyuha al-mukadhibuna, ayyuha al-dhalun al-mukadhibuna. Am I correct? Yeah. So here he's now referring back to them now here as well. When he says what? وَأَمَّا إِنْ كَانَ مِنَ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ ضَالِينَ. As for if it is this group, which is Ashab al-Shimal, he said, فَنُزُلٌ min hamim. We mentioned about nuzul. It could also mean that nuzul means that when hamim, of course, means boiling hot liquid. This is what they used to welcome them. وَتَصْلِيَةُ جَحِيمٍ, and then they'll be ushered into al-jahim, into the fire. Inna hada huwa haqqul, is the truth. Don't forget that we said about this in the beginning of the surah. Laysa because the occurrence of this, there's no doubt about it. Now it's reminding us, says, Inna hada huwa haqqul. Ulama say, al-haq, because when you say something is the truth, synonyms. But when you get said also, give tasbih to make tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we already mentioned this earlier. Tasbih is to negate and free Allah from all forms of imperfection. Someone that does tasbih, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, should ponder upon this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from all forms of imperfection, right? And is free from all forms of what? And naqs. Now, some ulama, like here, he mentions that, which is Surah Al-Hadid, because here it says, what? Ismullah al-Azam. Some say the greatest of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is this name, wal awwal wal akhir wal zahir wal batin. Some say Ismullah al-Azam is what? Allah. Kalima or Jalala, or love of Jalala is Allah. So with this, we come to the conclusion of the tafsir of this verse. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it beneficial for us, to make us from as-sabiqun, to make us from the foremost people. And also I remind you and myself that we should we should work hard towards achieving this. And this comes from learning. Okay, we need to learn our deen, and we should practice what we learn. Because when you learn something, the fruit of the knowledge is what? Is al-amal, is to act according to it. Knowledge that is not, that you don't act upon it is not considered as beneficial knowledge in Islam. Knowledge that is beneficial is what you learn and then you practice. So we should try to learn our deen, and we should try to increase in our iman. So I'll be from the best of the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Haza wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khairan.
To thank our lecturer for this wonderful lecture. We ask Almighty Allah to reward our speaker with good in this world and the hereafter. My dear brothers, this is a great lecture that reminds every one of us of our here. That certainly we are going to meet our Lord one day. كل نفس So this great surah, Surah Al-Waqi'ah, is to remind us of Akhirah and to draw us closer to Almighty Allah. Our Prophet said that Mamata qad qamat qiyamatu. That whosoever dies, his qiyamah has commenced. But for sure, we are going to meet Almighty Allah one day. So let us try to be obedient to Almighty Allah in our doings, and to move away from what Allah has commanded us just to do. So now we will be able to entertain a few questions. If you have a question for the lecturer, inshallah, if there's any comment, inshallah. We have a question from Dr. Yeah. Any other question? Yes, inshallah. So, who again? Yahya, 3. 4. Now, inshallah, I think that should be 5. Inshallah. So, we'll start with Dr. Asimi. Okay.
Yeah, my question is, that's clear. But what is not clear is we have now these days we have Quran translation, we have the Arabic and the English. We know the Arabic one cannot give to non-Muslims. They can only give them the one that is in English. But we have this one with the Quran and Arabic together. Where do you put that? Can you give them that or?
I don't know. I've not seen any fatwa on this. So I cannot say categorically that it falls here or it falls there. Allah knows best. But I can check and get back to you.
Second,
I have a question about this ayah where you said where you see people attribute them for the truth, some attribute righteousness. How about people attributing them for the truth? Example, when it's raining heavy, people say the first case is always. So first it's always then it's raining heavy.
Yes, actually the point is that fine, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has created some things to be like a sunnah in this dunya. So seasons, sometimes rain can come in different seasons. Sometimes it also changes, right? But the point here is that we cannot attribute the rainfall to the season itself, because there's nothing like a season. Season is not mutasarrif, and it doesn't control anything. Season is just it. You are just saying that it falls in this time frame. But there's nothing there that does anything, right? here when it says the stars as well, some people think that if